Oh, yep, it's that lazy Sunday morning again. Got company coming, so I figured I'd go ahead and show off some more books I got. Just amazing. I get rid of books, I end up walking ass backwards into books. If only I could like bottle that to where, I'd love to be able to control when I fall backwards into books. So basically what happened was I got a new car. It's a used car, but it's a new car, and I got a great deal because basically, if you got me on Facebook, if you have me on Facebook, you've seen the car. And it's really nice because I had a 98 Chevy Lumina that it was the opposite of all the other cars I've ever had. The engine ran great because I had it rebuilt in 2009, and everything else was falling apart. Now that I'm out of there, I actually have this passenger side door tied because I refused to put more money into it. Like, it was falling apart, but the engine was great. It was like a tank. It's only been stuck in the snow twice the whole time I've had the thing, but I digress. But anyway, I get this Dodge minivan. Yes, it's a minivan. And I'm like, okay, this is too good to be true for the price I'm paying. And I have scrimped and saved and eBayed and everything for 2 years, So, it means a little bit more than just your average car to me. And the deal's too good to be true. And what happens is what I found out is that I was dealing with this lady's dad. And then I met her. And she gets in and she showed me all the little tidbits, the personalized, things in the car to make it work, where she's had it so long. And turned around and found out it's a divorce sale. She got rid of the car because it had too many memories in it, So I was like, that makes sense. So the very next day, yesterday, I'm like, let's go see what this car is made of, see if I, did a good thing here. And I did not end up spending, I ended up spending zero gas money, okay? I ended up doing a 145 mile round trip up a mountain both ways, and all that stuff. Ended up in Mount Airy, North Carolina. Didn't have to pay any gas. Now, usually, that's one of the reasons why when I do these road trips and stuff like that, I kind of limit myself because of the gas money. This thing gets like 20 miles to the gallon, which really surprised me. So when I end up in Mount Airy, I'm like, oh my God, I can get comic book money. I got comic book money. I rationalized. I kind of started to treat myself. So I used what would have been gas money to buy some comics. Now, before I get to those comics, I'm going to show you what I got on eBay. I've been collecting these Valiant comics for pretty much nothing here. I've got a good set here. And I was always a fan of the Shadow Man comics of the 90s. So I wanted to check out and see what was going on here. So I got on eBay and I found issue 1 and 2 for 99 cents. Okay, out of this shop out of California or something, DJ's is what it's called or something. They even sent a little card in here. And I'm not going to lie, I read the first issue and I was just kind of like, okay, hopefully it gets better. It wasn't bad, but I was just kind of like, okay, yeah, so we'll see what that goes on. Alright, so when I was coming back from out here, I stopped by my comic book shop and they had some things, I had a little bit of credit there. So I ended up getting Power Girl #1, it's Gray, Palmiotti, and Amanda Conner, and I'm a Amanda Conner fan of her art. So I figured I'd get this, plus, looks like an Adam Hughes cover on there. So, I picked up the first couple issues. There's #2, another Adam Hughes cover. And #3. And they have, like, scattered issues all the way up to, like, 26 or 27. But the reason I started picking them up is because of this cover. This cover's been staring at me, right? Because that's Bartox, excuse me, right? And this is an homage to his first appearance back in '74 in Superman 281. And this guy always disturbed me because of his costume and his mustache and that very 70s feel and and all that stuff. And I was like, this guy's ridiculous. Then years later, I found out this is based on Sean Connery. He was in a movie called I have it wrote down here, Zardoz, Zardoz. And apparently I went to Wikipedia and looked up Zardoz and found out that it was like his second movie role after the James Bond films. And I saw the movie years ago and never made the connection, and I was just like, wow. So yeah, a little bit of fun there. But yeah, kudos to them. Cracks me up. Alright, and then I got this. This is the 70th anniversary issue of Captain America, number 616. And this thing is huge. I think this cost me $1. But what got me with this is that it's got but tons of short stories and stuff, and I hope I can find it. I should have had it marked. It's got Howard Chaykin, but you get a Kurt Swan Captain America and a Jim Aparo Captain America, and I just, two great Silver, Bronze Age, Copper Age artists there, doing some Marvel books. And whatever they did do for Marvel was very limited. I saw one sketch that Kurt Swan had done that Joe Sinnott did, but it was still Superman. So it was just kind of cool to see what could have been. I love it when they switch up those artists and stuff. Those characters with a DC artist, the Silver Age Marvel characters with Silver Age DC books. You see a lot of those on the covers of a magazine called Alter Ego, which Roy Thomas puts out. Then I grabbed these. These came to about 50 cents a piece. Like I said, I had credit and stuff. But I got number 6 here of Superman Batman. They're continuing the widescreen storytelling. And in this issue, they got a guy named Brett Booth doing this work. And Brett Booth is just so good. Sometimes I get a kick. I'm glad to see some of those guys get out of the Image mold, where they had to work under the umbrella of one of the original Image founders. But if I remember right, Brett Booth did this amazing book where I think he got his attention. I think it broke him. I really do. I think it broke him to the spotlight a little bit. But he did this Backlash Spider-Man crossover book, one shot. And I'm like, why is this guy not doing Spider-Man? Brett Booth should be doing Spider-Man, in my opinion, if you got Ramos on him, And then I got this Jonah Hex. I picked up a whole big run of All-Star Western Comics Jonah Hex, and I figured out why not. This came out about 2 months ago. And it just cracks me up how they keep mining Alan Moore with stories he wrote over 30 years ago and stuff. But this one has the Black Mercy in it. And this actually ties in. There's a little continuity going here. They tell you to see how the Black Mercy gets to Earth. Check out Batman Superman number 8. Which I was like, wow, there's some continuity there. And for you guys, that Alan Moore remark, the Black Mercy, got the book over here. I should have grabbed it. Superman number 11 back in 85. It came out with a Superman annual, like I said. And it was about a Black Mercy, a plant that attaches itself to you. It's like a parasite. And it makes you live your greatest dream, where you don't even know it's not reality and stuff. And it's popped up, and it's just kind of popped up over the years. And I'm sitting here thinking there's another Alan Moore thing with Marvel doing their Miracle Man stuff right now. It's kind of like, wow. Okay. So what I'm doing is that I'm realizing that some of these books are 30 years back, and it's one of those things where I have actually been putting off looking for a lot of this stuff for 30 years. It's just, I'm like, it's time to do this. And with me buying less and less newer comics and stuff, that's why I'm going to try to get all the Legion Crisis crossovers. I mean, I got a good chunk. I mean, I got to be real close. So I picked up this Legion of Superheroes number 18, and then I got this one, Infinite. I've had this. I don't know where it's at, but I was really glad to get it because I actually enjoyed this cover. Infinity Incorporated number 19, Todd McFarlane on it, Roy Thomas writing. And but man, this is the book where I'm infamous because they cram a lot on the pages, and it's so tiny. I don't know if this is Todd McFarlane being young and inexperienced, or if this is Roy Thomas throwing so much at him he just had to make it fit. So yeah, it's one of those books where I'm like, that Legion Killing Earth 2, had Roy Thomas scrambling. Then I decided to start getting these. In the 90s, Grant Morrison came out with DC 1 Million miniseries that crossed over with million issues. And DC asked, what year would these books hit 1 million if we were to keep publishing them? And they came up with the 853rd century. And Grant Morrison wrote the story where the Justice League of the 853rd century came back in time because in their timeline Superman was returning. And I don't remember what the big plot twist was, why he had to come back. But he was coming out of the sun. He was living in the sun. And Grant Morrison, any works that he does for Marvel, DC, or whatever, in his head he kind of writes all these books where they're connected. They're their own universe, their own little story. An example of this is that when he was doing the new X-Men, he turned Weapon X into the Roman numeral 10, so it was Weapon 10, and that was Wolverine. Weapon 13 was Phantom X. And then when he went to DC, he put out a 3-issue miniseries called We 3 about animals. And technically, on the slide, that means this was Weapon 3, the third part of that experiment. So the animals were part 3, Wolverine was part 10, Weapon X was part 13. You catch me. Well, anyway, so they came out with these retro books that, these came out of the, there's a little gag in here when you open the page where they're explaining how they're, due to the anniversary, they're showing how comics were put on pulp wood paper and all this stuff. So anyway, these are the million issues. Impulse, Hitman, which I'm real interested in seeing that one because Garth Ennis hates heroes. I can't wait to see what he does. And the Flash 1 million. Okay. And like I said, it's time for me to do all this stuff. Alan Davis came on Excalibur, and then he left Excalibur, but Chris Claremont was writing. And then the book went downhill, and then they got Excalibur to come. He got Alan Davis to come back to Excalibur in '91. This was the first issue, number 42. And don't let the little Tweety Bird thing, shy you away from the book. It's actually a bomb, But he put in that humor and that British wit, and Excalibur takes place in Britain, so you got a Brit writing it and stuff. So now I have all the Alan Davis books, and I can sit down and actually read them. Now this one, I don't know if it's going to impress anybody. I don't know if it's even worth anything. But a lot of people are showing off their Twilight Zone books that are coming out now, and J. Michael Straczynski is writing them. And a lot of people are missing the point of the whole thing that's cool about Straczynski being on the Twilight Zone comic is because in the 80s, the Twilight Zone had a short-lived series on CBS, and J. Michael Straczynski was like the head writer, story editor or something. He shaped and molded and looked over all those scripts and stuff like that. So you got a guy who actually worked on the Twilight Zone show writing the comic. But in the early 90s, I don't know, late 80s, early 90s, Now Comics came out with the Twilight Zone. And I picked up this one. This is number 4, and look right there. This could be J.H. Williams III's first comic book work. I'm going to have to look it up, which I thought was cool. And I've looked in here, and he's come a long way, folks. Long way. Got this for $1. Now we're into the dollar book. Sorry, that I got down in Mount Airy. I had this, and I've sold it, and I'm regretting it, so I'm going to piece it back together. But after Dark Knight Returns, it seems like he had like green. Everybody got their big, grim, gritty maxi series. Green Arrow Longbow Hunters as an example, and then you got Hawkworld by Tim Truman. But over the years, this thing has stood out. This has been, I regret getting rid of this. This is really good, really good. 3 of those, 2 more to go. And then I decided I'm trying to piece together my Teen Titans. I cannot believe how hard it is to get a 1 and a 2. Now, number 2 doesn't surprise me. Number 2 is first appearance of Deathstroke. Expect a little work, but number 1, oh man, I don't know. I don't get it. So I went ahead and got some doubles here. Maybe one day I can sell these or trade them off or something. But New Teen Titans number 7 and number 8. These actually might be upgrades. I don't know. And then in the '84, they started the Baxter series, where they got them. They were exclusive in comic book shops, and they were on Baxter paper and brighter colors and everything. And they turned the newsstand edition into the New Teen Titans, which were actually reprints with new covers of these stories that ran a year behind. So technically, you stayed a year behind Teen Titans. But I got some of these, number 17, piecing these together. 17, 16. 21. I think this is the one where they find out which of the Titans knocked up Cheshire here. And then Steve Ogden a couple months ago sent me the Omega Trade, the I don't know 10, 11 issue series from back in the 70s that ended up getting a cult following. It was a little ahead of its time. And what they did is they finished the story in Defenders 76 and 77. I have 77 now. I have 76, and that's Omega the Unknown. So get to read that. And then here's the big books. These were $1 a piece and stuff. This makes my second copy of this. Yes, I know it's not the variant cover that's worth a ton, but this one is still the first appearance of the Marvel Zombies. That went on, that Kirkman ended up writing in the miniseries, and they've had sequel after sequel. There's 21, 22, and this was a 3-part story, and I finally have part 3. I got doubles of those other 2, but this is I finally got to get to see how the story concludes there. The great old Dawn of the Dead kind of scary pose. Just turn invisible, put a force. I mean, why would this even be a threat, man? She's the invisible girl. Put a force field around you and walk right through them. Or better yet, put a big force field out and push them against the wall and just pop their heads. I mean, she could squeeze their brains with an invisible force field without even cracking their skull. And then I got these. These were hot books at one time. I have no idea if they're worth anything now, but these are Arthur Pseudonym covers where he pays tribute, an homage to older Silver Age Marvel books. And Arthur Pseudonym is just one of my favorite artists. Going back when I was a kid and I was looking at his Bog World over in heavy metal back in the day. Yeah, 29 and 30. That's one of the reasons I like this hobby, because like when you're 5, 6, 7 years old and you're a fan of this guy's art and you're trying to figure out who the artist is, and you find out it's Arthur Pseudonym and nobody's really heard of him, and unless they're heavy metal fans and stuff. And all of a sudden the Marvel Zombie books came out, and I'm just kind of chuckling. Like, a lot of people thought he was some new artist coming out or an Alex Ross clone, or, you know, I'm like, no. And then I ended up meeting him at Heroes Con. I think it was last year in Charlotte, North Carolina. And here I am with this stack of zombie books, and I'm actually kind of feeling weird, you know, kind of, I wouldn't say starstruck, but I'm kind of like, there was some excitement there, you know what I'm saying? Trying not to be a fanboy because I'm meeting Arthur Pseudonym. I go and talk to him, and I hand him an Epic magazine for him to sign that he did, early 80s magazine that was kind of like heavy metal that Marvel put out. And he sits there and he looks at it, he's like, oh wow, and he starts flipping through this thing, and he finds an ad for the Blade Runner movie adaptation that's being drawn by Al Williamson. I'm a huge Al Williamson fan. And all of a sudden Arthur Pseudonym is like, when did this come out? What's it on? Can I still get it? Was this Marvel? And all this stuff. And all of a sudden he's asking me questions about Al Williamson. He's a fan, I'm a fan, and he's loving Blade Runner. I love Blade Runner. You know, I've got 5-disc collection up there and all this stuff. I can recite parts of the movie. And I'm sitting here all of a sudden, you know, me and Arthur are just kind of buddying up. He gets me behind the table, and we sit there and I talk to him about Arthur Pseudonym, schooling him about Al Williamson. And he's asking more questions, and I'm telling him about Blade Runner and stuff. And I'm like, this is just too freaking cool, you know. So, yeah, I'm probably a fan for life there and stuff, because that's just, to me, that was just a cool experience. All right, guys, carry on. Have a great weekend. Thanks for sticking in.